taking too much of your PTO? And what's the right amount? Let's figure it out together. I'm Noel, Head of People Operations at Morning Brew Inc., and this is People Person. Today we're going to be talking about a concept that sounds pretty simple, but can get complicated pretty fast as well. Because on paper, time off is a benefit, but in reality, how it's structured, communicated, and actually used can either reduce burnout or quietly contribute to it. I'm going to be joined today by Jenna Young, who is the Senior Client Partner at Korn Ferry, and we're getting into how companies should really be thinking about PTO, especially as we head into peak time off season. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation all about PTO. How are you feeling, girl? How are we feeling overall?
I'm feeling good. Today is my birthday, and there's nothing I like more than having a chat. So,
Oh my God, happy birthday. You didn't even tell me. You are the birthday girl.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I don't know if
So
that's a good thing that you're using your birthday to have a conversation with me. I don't know if that's against PTO or like our philosophy in general.
it's a Thursday. If it had been a Friday, I probably would have taken the day off.
Well, you know
But
what? Thursdays is a great start to start the thing. So next time we chat, I'm going to make sure this time next year you're taking off that birthday as well formally. But this is the gift that I didn't think I was going to receive. Thank you for chatting with me today on your birthday. Oh,
happy to.
the pleasure is mine. Well, with that being said, birthday girl, why don't you tell the people in the back a little bit about, what it is that you do, the company you work for, and then we can jump right into the conversation about PTO.
Sure. Jenna Young, I'm a senior client partner at Korn Ferry, and I work in organizational strategy. But my shorthand for that is I really like to focus my time in helping people fall back in love with the companies they work for.
Oh my gosh.
So right now, I look over our employee value proposition work and a lot of culture work as well.
I love that. So when you think about PTO today, what would you think is the biggest gap between how companies design it and how employees actually experience it? Seeing that you just said your tagline is to get people to fall in love with the thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of people hesitant to take vacation now, and we're seeing a bit of a drop. So there's too much PTO staying on companies' books and not being used. And I'd love to see that change because you think about what's the dynamic underneath it, what's causing people not to take their PTO. And maybe it's a little bit of the economic situation in the US, but also it could be some level of either fear or people just not being certain about how much flexibility they really have. So I'd love to see those numbers go up because I think it's better for the culture. Obviously, it's better for people's energy, and it's part of how you're compensated.
I agree. Why do you think or where do you believe some of that uncertainty may come from with an employee looking around and moving in fear, at least when it comes to requesting time off that they're obligated to?
I wonder whether it's there being sufficient capacity around them.
Mm.
Are people worried that there's going to be, you'll hear a lot of people say, when I come back from vacation, I'll have to catch up on so much that stopped while I was gone. So we don't seem to have really great systems in place right now or managers that are helping people think through how to delegate enough, how to get enough people around to share the load. And I think there's been more headlines than probably our people are comfortable with about reductions, et cetera. And I think everyone just wants to make sure they're in good standing. But obviously, we want folks at work who are energized, and we want to build that trust back up, and we want everyone to get the benefits that you get from going out and really sharpening that pencil and coming back ready to work instead of just grinding down.
Yeah. Do you think that fear exists more in certain workspaces that may have unlimited or flexible PTO, or do you see that fear still shows itself in spaces that has, you know, actual numbers or accruals or minimums, if you will?
Yeah, it seems like it's across the board, and I think that people, obviously, if there are policies around it and people are mandated to take vacation, that's actually really helpful because then they are going to be out there and work, and then you actually want them to disconnect while they're on PTO and not be feeling the pressure to call or to check in, or worse, have managers or coworkers reaching out to them when they're gone.
Yeah, and so as an HR person, now that, I mean, we pretty much have a good understanding of what PTO is prepare the others, or AKA personal time off, it's your sick time, it's whatever you want to do with that time. It's at your discretion, assuming it's not falling into leave of absence. But outside of
Yeah.
that, Do you think there are other policies that an HR leader like myself or just a person listening in can take into consideration to implement that would be outside of PTO that can maybe help with, mitigating some of that fear or reducing burnout?
Yeah, well, burnout is really a signal of a broken system. It's not a lack of PTO or time off. So it's
Mm.
focusing on how people experience their work every day. So I would say the most important thing for HR to lean in on is the manager training.
And so if there's a policy such as creating, quarterly audits, for example, as an HR leader, just to make sure people are taking time. Do you think that's reactive, proactive? Should that be something shared as an example to the company so that signals, or that just feels performative?
Um, It might be a little performative, and also, is it helpful in the end to employees?
Mm.
What we would not want to see is folks having to time their vacations in ways that aren't useful for them. Sometimes we'll see people hoarding time, or the worst would be if you're using your vacation to go to the dentist. Like, that's not a vacation
Oh,
day.
no, it's not. It's adulting.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So we want people to be able to have the flexibility to do the things in life that they need to do and to spend the time. It's a bit of a sign of respect too. Let people
Mm.
spend the time where it's needed and let them make the call on where that is. I do think it's good to check in to make sure you're reminding people to take their time off. To dig into underneath why someone might not be taking time off, I think is really important. So audits can help and checking in will help, but I think the more you can have the flexibility and the control sitting with the employee and just make it really clear to them that they are encouraged to, that you have a culture where time off is valued, and making certain that boundary setting is actually coming from the company and not almost creating an environment where the employee needs to be the courageous one.
Mm.
They should know that it's an expectation, that it's encouraged, and again, their leaders should role model it.
PTO is a waste of everyone's time if you're not doing it the right way. Honestly, I can think of so many situations where people are saying, yeah, I have unlimited, or yeah, I have flexible, but they can't remember the last time they actually took time off. And to be honest, shame on you, shame on me, shame on us as HR people of not thinking of ways to make it easy to take off. You are the signal. You are the model. And I'm not just talking about walking down the runway. I'm talking about being the version of an employee you want your employees to be. So, if you're still unsure if your PTO policy is doing the things it should do, ask them. They'll tell you, and then it'll be up to you to make it right. I believe in you. I could do it too. Is that the responsibility of the HR team or person, or should that come from the direct manager?
I think that it's the HR teams encouraging the managers
Okay.
and really reinforcing with the leaders that's a part of our culture and it's part of what people should be experiencing. And it's a way of signaling value.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like there's always a thing where if you see HR strongly encouraging something, that's a very corporate way of saying, make sure it's done. So it kind of
Yeah,
adds like some of that oomph behind the statement of what's being shared corporately.
100%,
Uh-huh.
100%.
You mentioned
Yeah.
time as well. Some folks do like to hoard time, where maybe they do want to use some of those days for a specific time frame. I think we all can agree summer typically is like that peak season when it comes to
Mhm.
folks requesting time. In my experience, not saying it's where I work now, but in past lives, I have seen managers almost get weary actually, knowing that summertime is going to come up because they have the concern about, who's going to cover what. Perhaps headcount's a thing, and so bandwidth is already a concern. How would you, as an HR person or in the space, give advice or recommendation to how a manager can prepare for the waves of PTO that may come in during the summer?
Well, the nice thing is we all know summer is coming.
Okay.
So you can plan in advance, and make sure that there are plans put in and be really clear about policies. I think that the clarity and the communication is really important. But I actually think that this summer is going to present a unique opportunity for HR to play a strategic role, and that we can be using summer to the advantage of the company to actually solve a problem that a lot of companies have right now.
How do you mean?
Okay. I'm seeing, we actually are hearing a lot from companies that one of the big issues they have is how much they've invested in AI.
Mm.
And what's happening, it's not translating to people actually using it. You're seeing a hesitancy across the board of employees not quite sure why they should be diving in. There's a bit of a question about the productivity, being able to show that you're more productive and where that time goes. People either fear that they're going to save some time and then more work is going to be loaded on them, or they're going to save some time and there might be some risk to themselves. Imagine if we were to take the summer and start piloting a 4-day work week, which we're all, we've heard of summer Fridays before. I think a smart company will actually start using this as two, in a way, it will serve two purposes. You could have a killer EVP, which would be summer Fridays. Maybe you pilot it in a small session. Maybe it's alternate Fridays, but you're also making it contingent on AI usage. Give people the chance to go look at your jobs, see how you can be more efficient. If you can show efficiencies, if you can show productivity, if you can capture the time that would have been a 40-hour week and do it in 4 days instead, we'll reward you with summer Fridays. It could be piloted over the summer. You jumpstart people doing AI adoption. You get them in and working. And it's an everybody wins. Where is the time going? Is going back to the employee, not the company. It's also a contained amount of time. It's this summer. So as that's coming through, I think it's a really interesting way for HR to step up and help work really closely with their technology partners and probably their C-suite to get people really excited about and leaning in on the policy. And I think the few companies that do that are going to find that their burnt out employees are suddenly really excited again. They're really keyed in, and that everyone is very happy to be where they are and a little more willing to experiment.
Heck yeah, you told me I'm about to have off on summer in the Fridays of the summer. I'm out of here. But I guess I'd be curious to know, like, how would I prove that though? Like, if I'm the employee to be like, okay, this is my, AI of preference, et cetera, et cetera. But how do I then prove that to my manager to then get my Willy Wonka ticket of then having off on the Fridays for summer?
Well, I would imagine with your work, there's some amount of productivity that needs to be done, and that's what we should be measuring is productivity, not not presence. So you show that your work is being done in that amount of time. Again, it depends on the type of work that you have. In some cases, it may not, you may need to have alternating employees in to make sure that you have coverage on things, et cetera. So managers have to work on that. But in a lot of jobs, you have a set number of things that need to be done. You're clocking hours and clocking time. And I think if you are a company that can think through how to get your employees to do what needs to be done with less time and show how they're using AI, at least pilot it.
I like that a lot. I would have never thought of even connecting the two of those things together. AI, obviously, everyone and their mom is talking about it, but then also, who wouldn't want those summer Fridays? And because it's in a contained time frame, you can make it shake, and it's a pilot. I think that's smart, exactly as you said, to have it shared as a pilot. This is not something that's fully in place yet. We're still figuring things out. There may be kinks that we need to work out, but at least it shows forward thinking and puts a nice spin on something. Plus, as an HR person, we own it. So this could really be
Yeah.
a thing that's like a shining moment in that space.
100%. And I think HR has so many opportunities to get a seat at the strategic table and to really help make sure that the business objectives are being met. And so when we look at every single policy and try to think, is there a way that we can be looking at this differently and making sure that we're helping drive essentially the outcomes that our companies need? This is just one of those examples. And on the side, you have the benefit that your employees are going to love it. And
Yeah.
they're going to feel better about the place that they're working. So whenever there's a win-win, that's where we should be leaning in and just thinking a little bit more creatively about using all of the tools around us.
Seriously.
Solve two problems at once.
No, you're good. And then also hoping that they mention that in the engagement survey or Glassdoor online so that people can see it as well.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I do. It's funny. I think that that is a powerful value prop. It will really stand out. It will be something that makes one company, it's a good way to recruit and re-recruit
I
your
agree.
employees.
I love that. You mentioned even just a little bit earlier about how we should be thinking about how PTO can also be a part of a compensation package, right? Or at least a part of like the offer that's being shared. Aside from having it listed in your offer letter, if it applies, how else can that show up to, let a candidate understand the true value add of having whatever PTO policy the company has in place?
I think that just a sense of what the culture is is important, which can be tied to PTO. It's how people are taking their time off. It's that it's valued. And I think, again, it's just reflecting that you are valuing the people as well. So sure, it can be the number of days. It could also be the flexibility around where and how you use it. And maybe, again, you can come up with something a bit more innovative. Do you tie some, is there some PTO that you can, what do you do with the PTO you don't use? Can you, some places you can be paid back for it, or it could, can it roll into an investment? That might be interesting if it becomes, so many companies that's use it or lose it.
Yeah, that's very true. Even off the top of
Could
my
it
head, I'm wondering like if there's even like a community service aspect where it's like if there's a certain number of hours that you didn't utilize, those hours can translate into dollars, and that's then donated to whatever organization of your choice. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
actually something to think on. I don't know if that's existed, but to see if that's even a
we
consideration.
yeah, we also see that there are some companies where people will donate their unused PTO to a colleague if they're having, if they have exhausted their short-term disability, or if they're having a
Oh.
family leave situation. There's a lot of ways people are actually incredibly generous with their time off.
That is
So
actually really cool. I love that idea. And I guess it would be applicable probably more specifically for folks who have an actual figure of days or hours that they're able to share. But still, what a way to, provide connectivity within employees in spaces like that too.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think it also
absolutely.
can signal culture as well. Morning Brew, we have something called Culture Day, which is essentially like a floating day, but it allows for
Mhm.
people to make the decision on their own to utilize a day to have observance or take time off to speak to the things that they feel like they can identify with. I found that's been something that's really resonated with new hires or folks who are coming through the process, knowing that exists, even outside of the unlimited or flexible PTO that we have here.
Yeah, and I do think people very much appreciate those days, which where the culture can come together, and especially in some places where there's more flexible or hybrid days that you can go off and volunteer together or participate in a walk together, or even having days that you could earn to go and do something good. I worked for a company that had a bit of a, it wasn't necessarily a secondment, but there were some people who could get like a week off, but they'd have to go and pursue something for their own growth and development, and then they'd report back around it. So, in some cases, I think that one woman went to a village in Guatemala and was helping out there, and that was how she was using the time. Other people would go and do a seminar or a class.
I love that. So creative. It's
Yeah,
pushing people to do the things they probably would want to do anyway, but now they feel they have the safety to do it and getting rewarded at the same time.
absolutely.
So, how do you see PTO evolving over the next few years as expectations around work and flexibility honestly continues to shift?
I hope that it continues to be considered as a way to show the employee that they're valued. And I do think flexibility is what's really important. It's having it be available for people when they need it to use how they do it. And again, I think the what we should be measuring and looking at is how well people are performing, not how often they are present. So if you have people who are exceeding expectations, who are really showing up, when they're showing up fully, and they are bringing a lot of value to work. I think that's why we see some of the unlimited PTO policies that we have, where generally some more senior people who are really contributing have the flexibility to take the time when they need it. Of course, they rarely, in fact, I think they end up taking less.
So, when it comes to performance, then I guess thinking of the today of things, if there
Mhm.
is an employee who is having, performance concerns, it's something that's been documented or certainly something that's been directly, spoken to. Does that then mean as an HR person or as a manager, I should be less open to approving time off? Is that the connection we're seeing with performance? How should I approach that?
No, I don't think that it should be a stick. That's part of the deal. If someone has come and there's been an agreement for a certain amount of PTO, I think taking some vacation away or putting it in jeopardy is unlikely to cause someone who's already got some performance issues to suddenly begin performing more. It may create some resentment or some other factors that I don't think would be helpful in the long run.
Fair enough.
I think of it more as a reward and a benefit. And really, it's what is PTO but your own time? And so it's letting people know your time is valuable, and we want you to be able to do the things that you need to do in your life so that when you're here, you're fully here, that you're focused, that you're energized, that you're engaged, that you are coming at full capacity, and that you're bringing a lot to your colleagues.
If there was a thing that you want to make sure everyone from today's conversation walks away with and has your name attached to it, what's the thing you'd want us to walk away and remember while we are on our own personal PTO thinking about this fabulous conversation today?
Yeah. I would say sustainable performance should be your goal, not constant availability.
Mm,
So do whatever you can to make sure people are really engaged, that they're excited to be there, that they see opportunities, that they're learning. And that's really where the focus should be. Anything that you can do to dial up the energy and engagement of the people around you will pay off tenfold in the performance, because engagement equals performance. And I think as we think about time off, it's really about how people come back and
mm.
how they use their time in.
I love that. Well, you know what? With time off, the idea is that you are doing the things you want to do. And so whether it's adulting or quite literally frolicking, you're enjoying the time and getting the value back from it. So I actually
Yeah.
have a few questions that I want to ask you. It's kind of like a game, if you will. So let's have our own time of
I love
enjoying.
the game.
So the idea behind it is we're going to play something called PTO or PMO. So basically, I'm going to share some examples with you of like in the world of, taking time off. I want to know if you think it's a good use of PTO or will it be, be peeving you off, essentially, seeing that someone would be doing a version of this in the
Okay.
workspace. So hopefully that makes sense. And so why don't we dive right in and see if we can get your point of view on these instances here. All right. So if someone were to be taking more than 2 full weeks off at a time, is that a good use of PTO or would that PMO?
I'm going to say good use of PTO. I'm hoping they're on a honeymoon or something.
You know
I've
what? We
never
don't
taken
know.
more than 2 weeks off.
Mm.
And no judgment. I don't know enough context about that. I'm going to trust if they need more than 2 weeks off, they're
Hmm.
going to come back and be firing on all cylinders. So we're going to PTO it.
Okay, cool. And not for nothing, I too would think the same thing. I just assume if it's more than 2 weeks, it's like, okay, someone's either climbing a mountain or they're,
Yeah.
having a life moment where it's like something beyond the typical or traditional time off. So I think I'd go PTO on that too, unless I then see something else. I'm like, hold on. That's a
Yeah.
little crazy, but okay,
Yeah.
I'm with you. PTO. All right.
Yeah.
Now, next one is being on PTO, but you're still responding to Slack messages while out. Is that good PTO?
PMO.
Okay.
No. No, that
Okay.
have some trust. You should trust your colleagues that they can handle it. So really go be off.
I love it. I'm usually one to threaten folks that if you do it, I'll turn your whole access off. So that's how serious I take that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, this is actually not uncommon, so I'd be curious to know what you think. Saying that they're taking time off for family matters, but then posting vacay pictures in Slack or you found it online.
It would probably secretly PMO, but I'm
Hmm.
gonna say I don't know. It might also be family matters. It is none of my business. It is their time. So if it is
Mm.
their PTO, they could tell me they were going to the moon. It is none of my business. It is none yet.
You heard that? She said, mind your business. And the business you should be minding is the one you're actually working at, not at the person who's online. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. You know what? Okay.
Yeah. And I would wonder, why did they feel the need to not share what their plans were? That would be a signal to me there's something going on in the culture. There's something going on in that team.
Yeah.
And I would want to go and figure out, why weren't they comfortable enough? If there was something, if they were misleading about where and how, why did they feel the need to do that? That tells me there's a lack of trust. That makes me really curious about their leader, really curious about their manager, less curious about them.
You know what? I think it would make me more curious about them, though, because for me, I would want to know. Well, first of all, you felt good enough to post whatever it is that you posted, whether it was in Slack. Why would you do Slack? But anyway, whether it was in Slack or it was on you whatever social media account. But I would want to know, like, yeah, I hear your point where the onus may be on the manager and the culture they've cultivated. But low key, what if they just lying, Jenna? Like, how about if it's just something like that? I would want to know directly talking to them if we just missed something or there's something that's, amiss here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, and then I think it would depend on what, if they were taking their own paid time off, it is their time to do as they like. If
That's
it was
also
something
true.
like FMLA, then, that becomes a issue. But again, you don't know. They could be having a really stressful, horrible family situation
True.
going on, and they went out to give themselves 1 hour of relaxing bliss.
Yeah.
And if I then call them and say, you looked like you were having fun, I thought something terrible was happening,
Oh
could
my
I be
gosh.
compounding something that was actually really hard for them? So start with trust.
Start with trust. Okay,
Start with
I've been
trust.
converted. I've been converted. I was ready to be Inspector Gadget and Nancy Drew, but she's like, you know what?
You
Give him
don't
the
know. You have
option.
no idea.
That's
People
true.
always, I think most people start with really good intent. And you should assume most people are out doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a speed round and I keep slowing you
Well,
down.
it's me.
I'm not very good
I
at this
can't
game.
stop talking, and I keep asking you follow-up questions. So, okay, let me move on to the next one. I swear, you and I are both the same. All right. So it's September, and an employee hasn't taken a single day off yet all year. Is that good use of PTO, or is that a PMO moment?
Think it's worth a discussion. When are you planning to go? And let's make sure that it happens.
Okay, I respect that. Next one: negotiating for extra PTO days instead of a raise.
I would take that deal any day of the week.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes. So many people don't take their PTO.
That's true. That's true. Well, but
And if I'm holding someone to a performance
yes,
standard and they have to deliver things, I'm going to get what I was going to get anyway.
touche.
If that's what makes that employee excited and, brings it, and I can show that it's equitable to other people, I'm paying them less. That's
Wow,
fantastic.
I didn't even think of that. Well, you heard that here, folks. Think strategically. All right, taking every Friday off for the whole year. Is that good use of PTO or is that a PMO moment?
It's genius and I'm jealous, but yeah, it would probably PMO a little bit. Um, but if they have the days and they can plan it out,
It's okay.
genius.
Interesting. Okay. And lastly, you talked about hoarding a little bit, so the question had to be here. What if you have someone or an employee in the company who has used up all their PTO in the month of December? Would that be good use of PTO or would that be a PMO moment for you?
A little bit of a PMO moment because you had all year to plan and it may impact other people. So again, I would hope that there had been conversations up until then. Um, and that, I think again, it's what were the policies? What was the clarity? And did they get their work covered and known? If we didn't have a policy that said not to, if everything they were supposed to do is covered, it is their time. Is it convenient? No. Might it create issues for other people? Hopefully not, because if we had seen and tracked, to your point earlier, the PTO all year long, we'd know it was coming. Did they let us know? Did we have a policy in place? We can only hold people to things that we've already clarified for them. So if we've let there be some fluidity about when to use time, if it's lose it or use it, and if it's accrued, then it would have been on the organization to have figured out when do you need people to tell you, and did you set any kind of policies or parameters around December? It's theirs to use as they will. If we haven't put the right policies in place, that means next year we have to do a better job.
Yeah, live and learn. It sounds like, again,
Yeah.
the repeated theme here is do things well. Productivity does have a direct correlation to PTO and how it's being used, or at least in the performance of it all. And mind your business. I feel like that was the thing that blessed me the most in this whole conversation, Jenna, from you telling me to basically trust the people you have hired. As long as you have done the good job of sharing the policy, ensuring the process is a good one, and also being okay if it needs to be revised. But trust the people to use the things that you've put in place in the way that's responsible. And I guess then I can have a PMO moment if it's not handled with the trust and the adulting that we thought they would have.
Yes, absolutely. You can totally get PMO'd when you've laid out a really clear policy, communicated it well, and set your expectations out there. You can't get PO'd when someone's using what belongs to them in the way that they want. You have to respect that. So I spend a lot of time on culture and on trying to have engaged employees who love where they are. And so much of it comes down to trust. So much of it comes down to treating people with respect that they know how to manage their own lives. And rule of thumb is if you look at performance over everything else, you're really at the end of the day getting what you need as a company. So don't get distracted by other things. Focus on bottom line. What do we need people to do? Are they doing it? Are they happy? And will they stay and continue to perform great for us? The rest is, calibrations.
Yeah, I appreciate every single word you shared with me today about this conversation. It's one of my favorite things to do. I personally was telling Jenna earlier, y'all, that I need to do better with taking more time off and being the signal and doing the things. But man, this has definitely helped with the mindset to apply for myself and also implement with my team. So Jenna, again, thank you so much for taking the time on your own special holiday, being the birthday that it is, to have the conversation with me and the good people here at People Person. I appreciate you a bunch.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll do this again. Maybe next year. Maybe we'll make it a birthday tradition.
We'll plan accordingly.
There you go.
Okay, y'all, that was a great conversation. And if there's one takeaway from it, it's that PTO isn't just about having the policy in your handbook. It's about whether people actually feel like they can use it. Jenna, thank you so much for that conversation. And to everyone listening, if this was something you've been reflecting on for some time and you're curious to unpack your own PTO habits or your company's approach, we would love to hear from you. So please email us at peopleperson@morningbrew.com to share your thoughts. As always, thanks for tuning in, and be sure to make sure you catch us in the next episode.